Wait. So you're saying that basically what's inside the protein are waste?
Yes, it used to be waste and so much cheaper to sell a chemical than to sell real food. Women are 9 times more likely to develop Hashimoto's than men. Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition where you have molecules that attack your thyroid gland.
What's the root cause of feeling bloated?
It's mainly because people aren't eating well. They aren't eating the fiber that they need. The immune system is confused. Instead of attacking foreign particles, it's attacking its own self. With gut health, a lot of people just think it's just about digestion.
Yeah.
And it's actually not about that. It controls all the systems. So you need to look after that.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Wellsome. In today's episode, I have the pleasure to have with me Dr. Rhea. Welcome to Wellsome.
Thank you for having me.
How do you feel today?
Good. How are you keeping?
Very, very, very good. The reason why I invited Dr. Rhea on the podcast today is because I wanted to talk together about a topic that is super relevant, especially when it comes to well-being and health in general, which is gut health. As you may know, gut health is really crucial, not only for the digestive system itself, but it is connected to so many other health conditions. And a lot of people right now are suffering from gut issues. And I have the best with me to just discuss it, because not only we're going to dive deep into how you can manage gut health and what are the symptoms, but also something that you really, really have to know that not many people have been talking about it. Dr. Rhea, again, welcome to Wellsome. I'm so happy to have you here because gut health, as I told you, is something that is very close to my heart. I've been suffering so much from gut issues, especially in the past. And I know that many people that are listening, they're struggling with gut health, IBS, leaky gut so much. So I'm super happy actually to talk about this. First thing first, why gut health has gained so much relevance in our current times?
So amazing question. So with gut health, a lot of people just think about it, it's just about digestion.
Yeah.
And it's actually not about that. It controls all the systems. So when you think about how your gut balances things, it's to do with immune tolerance, it's to do with immune signaling. It's also how we manufacture all our neurotransmitters. So mental health is an important thing. Dopamine, serotonin, all of that's made there. It controls almost everything, and our microbiome is such an incredible tract of all these amazing bugs, and how those flourish affect things like insulin resistance, cardiovascular disease. It's really an incredible topic we're learning more about.
Basically, everything is like a second brain, and is so true that is considered like a second brain. And I have a question for you. Why do you think nowadays everyone is suffering from gut issues? Do you think it's because more the science has developed and more we're discovering how relevant it is to take care of your gut? Or do you think it's because there are some factors that has developed in our current times that really impact our gut issue? How come I know everyone I talk to, they have gut issues?
Gut problems. So the number one causal issue at the moment is the increase in ultra-processed foods. So before, it used to be something where it was quite occasional, but now ultra-processed foods have become foundational. So a lot of people who think that they're doing a lot of healthy habits, unfortunately, are opting for ultra-processed foods without even realizing it. Unfortunately, the food industry is to blame, not people. And that's why I don't think it's a motivation issue. It's an education issue. You'll go and see this protein bar in the shop, right?
Yeah.
The back of the packet will be the ingredients, but most people see the front, which is marketing. It'll say high protein, really healthy, all of this. You flip it around and then you see it's full of emulsifiers, thickeners, stabilizers, stuff that your gut doesn't recognize, and stuff that your grandparents wouldn't recognize. We've shifted so far away from what ancient our ancestral diets were. And because of that, the terrain has changed so significantly. People think, I'll just have a Diet Coke here and there. It doesn't make such of a difference. But if you understand what's actually happening at the level of the gut, what it's doing in terms of changing the mucus layer, increasing inflammation, creating these little holes, which is leaky gut, this is the foundation of our health. What I like to say to a lot of my patients is, when they say, I don't really want to change my diet so much, but I'm going through all these health problems. Your gut is your connection to the outside world. How you absorb everything comes in from your gut. What you eat, from your supplements to everything. That is how you absorb. Of course, you absorb stuff through skin, but this is our major absorption layer. So you need to look after that. That needs to be healthy.
Yeah.
It needs to be working very well, right?
Yeah. For all those people that are suffering from bloating, I've heard so many, especially girls, I would say, I've heard so many people saying, I feel bloated, I look bloated. Why so? What's the root cause of feeling bloated?
An imbalance in your bacteria. And it's mainly because people aren't eating well. They aren't eating the fiber that they need. We should be getting 30 to 40 grams of fiber a day, which is actually about 2 massive heads of broccoli a day.
Yeah.
So most people aren't doing it. You have to be smart. You need to be getting the right seeds in and varying things up, having a variety of different things to build your microbiome, eating fermented foods, really eating the vegetables that your grandmother told you to do.
Yeah.
It's unsexy, it's boring advice, but unfortunately it really works. When you don't have that right balance and you have an overgrowth of the bad bugs versus the good bugs, they're constantly creating little bits of gas, a lot of carbon dioxide that causes the bloating, the cramping. And then that just unfortunately, I hear so many people, they're like 1% bloated, like 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And they think that's a new normal and that's okay.
Yeah.
But it's not. It shows that there's a problem and it needs to be addressed.
So for people that they feel, imagine this is a scenario. There's someone who feels massively bloated, cramps, fatigue, everything that is connected to something that is definitely imbalanced. What are the symptoms that indicate that we have a gut issue?
So all of those symptoms indicate a gut issue, and we can span onto things like skin health as well. You can see so many people will come with acne and they're just going to dermatologist after dermatologist, but they're not fixing those issues. Yeah. So it's really helpful to get a gut microbiome test done, right? To look at your barrier integrity, to look at what good bugs are there, what good bugs are missing, what are the bad bugs. Is there an overgrowth of fungi? What's happening in the system? And through that, we can really treat. Even if you don't want to do that full extensive testing, through symptoms, it's quite easy to understand. What foods are you not managing? Is it like the cruciferous vegetables? Is that giving you gas? Or is it the histamine foods? Then you can sort of understand what the pattern is in the gut. But they're all symptoms that there's something wrong with the gut.
Yeah. What do you think that are the main ingredients or foods that are so popular nowadays that people think they're just normal, but they actually alterate the gut so much based on actually your experience with your clients?
Firstly, protein powders. So there's such a trend at the moment to eat more and more and more protein. And people get the most ultra-processed, cheapest powders. And they don't realize the historical significance of what having whey protein is. Actually, back in the day, dairy farms used to have this toxic byproduct and they had to get rid of it. So they had to actually pay people to get rid of this whey. But they've realized now that you can actually sell it to people. They can dehydrate it, make it a powder.
Wait. So you're saying that basically what's inside the protein mix are waste, basically?
Yes, it used to be waste. And dairy farms actually had to pay people to get rid of it. These heaps and heaps of whey, this liquid waste that they don't need.
My God, I don't think people know about this.
And when you actually, if you Google it, you'll see all the videos. It's disgusting. Then they dehydrate it with chemical after chemical after chemical to make it this fine powder, which is whey protein isolate. And people think that, I'm taking 30 grams of protein. Then I've got clients who are so diligent. They work so hard on their longevity. They're spending so much on supplements. But then they'll be like, I'll just take this cheap protein powder. But every time they take it, they're running to the loo. Can you not understand the signaling effect of this? Come on, it's really damaging your gut. Because what isolates do is they're not neutral to the gut. And if they're mixed in with stabilizers and emulsifiers, if you think about the gut barrier, so you've got the gut tube, then you've got the layer of mucus, and then the layer of mucus separates the bloodstream from the bugs. Yeah. So we need those good bugs there, but we don't want those bugs to go into the bloodstream. If that mucus layer starts getting separated from the tract, which happens with emulsifiers, because emulsifiers are basically chemicals that mix things together, right? Like, for example, things like low-fat yogurt. People think it's super healthy. But what it's done is it's been chemically treated to take the fat out just so they can put it lower on a label so they can sell it. And then to mix it, you have to put an emulsifier. It's no longer natural. Otherwise, it's going to be all bitty, right?
Yeah.
Like, to mix oil and water, you need to emulsify it, right? Like, it's the same as when you're taking all of these things out, you're just adding milk solids in. So a lot of people think they're super healthy. This is the sad thing. They're having these ultra-processed things. They're having these protein powders. They're having these low-fat dairy alternatives. And they think they're being super healthy. Oat milk, for example, how toxic is that? Like, it's the oats that are sprayed with glycophosphate that are not being treated very well, firstly. And then it's been treated with so many chemicals to be able to create this oat milk and so many stabilizers, emulsifiers to bind it all together.
Yeah.
So people unfortunately think they're doing the healthy thing, but they're adding all of this toxic stuff into them. And each time, like, one exposure is not going to do harm, right?
Yeah.
But continuous exposure, meal after meal, snack after snack. And then if you really look at that diet and you see that 80% of it is from ultra-processed foods, which I'm actually genuinely seeing with my clients who are health-seeking, healthy individuals.
Yeah.
They come to me and they're like, I eat really well. So then I'll say to them, okay, here's my phone number, here's my WhatsApp. I want you to send me 3 days of pictures. And they'll be like, no, I'll just tell you. And I don't do that because they underreport the bad stuff and they overreport the good stuff. I've actually had a patient recently, about 2 months ago. He's based in London, and he sent me his diary of 3 days.
Yeah.
And there wasn't one food item in there. And I actually asked him, where is the food? Like, you're having a creamer with your coffee, and then you're having like some biscuits because you haven't eaten a decent enough lunch.
Yeah.
Like, it's not motivation. It's the fact that people don't understand what they should be eating. They think they're being super healthy, but they don't understand that food marketing and big food companies who are actually just profiting.
So I think also all these, because now we're in an era where like all this iced lattes, iced matcha, Spanish latte, all this variation of coffee and drinks are so popular, and most of the people, they're actually getting them with oat milks, coconut milks, etc. Where do you think there's a line? Like, where do you think the healthy drink ends in those?
So, I mean, for example, if you can have a healthy plant-based drink if you're making it at home or if the cafe is making it, but they're never going to make it, right?
Yeah.
It's so much cheaper to sell a chemical than to sell real food. So people look at profit margins. They don't look at people's biology, and they don't think of products aren't created for nourishment. They're created for profit, right?
Yeah.
And that's what the biggest issue is, unfortunately. Yeah. And so many people think that they're doing really healthy things, but they have no idea what they're eating.
Wow. I want to actually ask you later on. I know that you're developing your own protein mix. But first, I want to ask you actually, okay, we said that there are specific symptoms that we can recognize when we have gut issues. And then there are some, let's say, misconceptions about all this protein or healthy bars or healthy mixes that we should avoid. And I'm sure that we invite all people to read the labels so they can actually have, a better understanding. Now, what do we need to do to actually fix our gut so we avoid all those symptoms and all these, foods that they're considered healthy, but they're actually playing against our health?
Well, the first thing would be removing these ultra-processed things and adding in beneficial foods. So good sources of protein, good sources of fiber, and varied sources of fiber. Trying to vary what you're eating every week is really, really beneficial. So I once went to this incredible talk in the Royal Society of Medicine, and it was about mental health and the gut microbiome. And the professor explained that the microbiome is like the Queen's garden. And every week you want to plant different flowers because you want it to be like a beautiful rainbow. It's not about eating that same healthy meal on repeat, but building that resilience by planting as much as you possibly can. So trying to eat 30 different plant-based source items every week. So that could be any nuts, seeds, vegetables. So it's quite easy to get to 15, 20, but then you have to kind of scratch your brain. from 20 to 30, because a lot of people are quite habitual, right? They'll eat the same meals again and again, eat that one, they like broccoli, so they'll eat broccoli with every meal. And although that's bringing benefit, we want to have a variety. We want the gut to be robust. We want it to be strong. And we want to plant as many beautiful flowers as we can in. So increasing your diversity is the first amazing thing you can do, increasing your fiber intake. And then managing other things such as sleep and stress. Those things really have an impact on actually your intestinal permeability. Alcohol as well. If for people who drink or smoke, some of these unhealthy habits can also have imprints, and they cause these little holes in the gut. So it's about removing the stuff that's causing the issues, but also repairing that lining as well. So there's amazing things you can take to repair it. So things like bone broth, good sources of collagen, high dose zinc, slippery elm. There's a lot of things in the functional medicine world that we can use. And we have this nice approach, which is the 4 R's. First you need to remove what's causing the problems. You need to restore the gut. You need to replace what's missing. And you need to rebalance the whole system as well. Because if stress is the thing that's driving this gut dysfunction, you can fix everything with antibiotics and, do amazing gut protocols. But 6 months later, it's all going to come back if you don't fix what's causing it from the very beginning. So although the gut influences the brain so much with our production of neurotransmitters, the brain also influences the gut so much. So, simple things like being so stressed and eating on the go, you're not telling your body you're ready for food. So stomach acid is low. And when stomach acid is low, it's not going to break down the food properly. You actually have to be in a relaxed environment. You have to take that deep breath and have mindful eating. Tell your body, I'm ready to eat. Tell your body those signals, switch off fight or flight, and switch on rest and digest. Then it tells the body, let's release the digestive hormones. Let's release the stomach acid. Let's prepare the body and the mind to receive this food.
So I think this is super interesting, and I'm glad that actually you shared also the theory of the 4R, which I didn't know about. It's so cool. We've been talking about gut health, and in the beginning of the podcast, we said that basically the reason why we have to take care of our gut is not only because of digestion or bloating, but also because it damages so many things and you have so many collateral effects on either immunity or mental health. Before diving deep into the immunity and hormonal part, which I think a lot of women are struggling with, I just want you to bring up how important it is, like God for our mental health, because I think a lot of people are suffering from mental health nowadays, depending on different, different reasons. But why do we need to start from our gut to fix our mental health?
So your gut is what produces 70% of your serotonin, right? And your serotonin is your happy hormone. It regulates mood. It regulates all of this stuff. Also dopamine, all of this stuff as well is produced in the gut. So these are the molecules that you need, your neurotransmitters, to make your brain work well. GABA is your stop button. Instead of your brain going so fast, you need GABA to slow things down. But in order for all of that to work, you need that gut to be making those things. And you need to be able to absorb the nutrients to make them as well. So if you have a damaged gut and you're not absorbing the precursors of like tryptophan to make serotonin, if you're not absorbing the things that you need to make these neurotransmitters, and you're not making them because it's a damaged environment. If you're running your car on 10% fuel, are you going to expect yourself to go all the way to Abu Dhabi and come back? No, you're going to have to take pit stops. You're not running efficiently, right? The system is damaged. So that's why it's so important. And so maybe people feel that, with mental health, a lot of binge eating comes into the equation, eating ultra processed foods and having these behaviors. Feel that you feel a little bit happier, right?
It's like a cuddle. It's
because it releases that dopamine, and it's that short-term dopamine, and then you have that crash after it. And actually the food industry is very smart. They actually hire a lot of scientists to create products that raise that dopamine, that don't have enough fiber, so you have that massive blood sugar. It absorbs on your mouth. I mean, think of something like a Pringle. You don't need to chew it, right? There's no structure there. Things just dissolve. You're not actually using your jaw to chew. So it becomes quite addictive, and it becomes quite a negative spiral. And it's quite difficult to shift away from that. But honestly, I've seen in clinical practice, give it 3 weeks and if that person really dedicates that 3 weeks, your taste buds actually start to change. Yeah. So you start to enjoy things that you didn't before, like enjoying steamed vegetables or enjoying like blueberries and finding them sweet, or finding dark chocolate sweet. Like that's a good barometer to see that your senses are changing, your tongue is changing. Yeah. So it is a long process, and it requires a lot of support, because when somebody's struggling a lot, you do need to coach them. They do need that support from a medical practitioner or a health coach, or whoever is able to support them.
How long do you think a person, majority, because it depends on how deep the issue is for sure, how long do you think a person needs to repair his or her gut?
3 weeks is the minimum to start having good effects. But up to 6 months most of the time. And to like completely repopulate it, it actually takes years. Because think about how most people have eaten. They'll come to me, they've been eating badly since they were like 15, 16, and they're in their 30s. How much damage has been done, and how much do we need to do to reverse all of that, right? Yeah. You think it's a long, long road. But although to completely make big differences, it takes time. But honestly, like 2-3 meals make a big difference. Like instead of like opting for that fast food, having that meal with good protein and good fiber, having those good vegetables, it's already giving signals to the gut. So research shows that as little as 2 days of improvements in dietary habits have an impact on your microbiome. So 2 days in, you're already making a difference, which is amazing. Yeah. But it's not enough to have like cured and fixed everything, right? Yeah. And it's a thing about continuously doing this. It's about not just coming and doing it for a couple of months and then giving it up after that, right? Yeah. It's about maintaining that lifestyle.
Yeah, I agree actually. And I agree. It's like, if you think about it, like if you tell me it takes us 6 months, we perceive it as a very long time. But in proportion of all the years that you spend eating like very poor foods, is not actually that long. Is actually proportional, and is not that much of a time. Yeah. It's just enough time for you to maybe build a habit also for yourself. Yeah. Not only actually gut health influence mental health, as we said, but also influence other part of the body and our immune system, and as women especially our hormone situation. It's not a secret that nowadays there are so many women who are actually suffering from Hashimoto. I don't know if our community is familiar with the word Hashimoto and what it is, but I really would love you to explain what Hashimoto is. And I really would love you to actually explain why it is connected to your gut, because I am 100% sure that people think it is all connected to hormones, but they don't know that actually the gut is playing a big role in it.
No, exactly. And it's such an important problem that's currently happening in the world, especially with women's health, because women are 9 times more likely to develop Hashimoto's than men. And it's actually said that like probably 1 in 5 women have Hashimoto's antibodies, but they just don't know about it. So that's something I add to all my standard panels. I check your autoimmune markers, specifically for thyroid, because that's where it shows up first. Yeah. So just going back to, you asked me the question, what is Hashimoto's? So Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition where you have molecules that attack your thyroid gland. So the body's confused. The immune system is confused. Instead of attacking foreign particles, it's attacking its own self. So this is what we call loss of immune tolerance. So why does that happen? Because your immune system is trained in your gut. So if you don't have that correct training there, that confusion happens. So just breaking it down a little bit further, there's quite a long process of the digestive system. So you start by chewing the food, the salivary enzymes work there, then it moves on to the stomach, where there's an high acid environment. That acid is really important to break down proteins into peptides. We need to break down these big molecules into small molecules before taking them into the tube of the intestine. Because if that's not the case, if they're too big, it causes irritation. Then now when we go into the tube of the intestine and we have our absorption, it's an incredible system, because it's like a sieve, right? So you need to have holes for nutrients to pass into the bloodstream. But it needs to be selective. You want to have your glucose, your amino acids, all of that, but you don't want bad bugs going in, and you don't want big peptide molecules that, the proteins that have not been digested.
Yeah.
If that goes in, it starts to create some immune issues and confusion. That happens when the gut is leaky. So these holes are quite big. Why is this happening? Why are so many people having leaky gut? Firstly, the ultra-processed foods. Secondly, the stress management, sleep regulation, all of these issues. So if you don't have enough stomach acid, which is linked specifically to stress, and eating on the go and all of that, you bring in these molecules that come in, they're really big, they grow into the bloodstream, and the body doesn't know what it is. So it starts attacking it. It starts creating these immune complexes. So these are all in the blood. And why does the thyroid get affected first? Because the thyroid sits here and it is very, very vascular. A lot of blood flow goes through it. So whatever is in the blood is going to attack it first. So there are compounds like that are like unbroken bits of gluten and bits of dairy that are quite similar to thyroid TPO and thyroglobulin, which is the structural part of the thyroid. So the body gets confused and it's trying to break down this random dairy and gluten, but it starts breaking down your thyroid gland.
Wait, so you tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, but imagine if I'm gluten and dairy intolerant or celiac, and I don't know that I am. So if I keep going and I keep on eating gluten and dairy, I can actually activate this, let's say, attack.
Exactly.
And then it can lead to Hashimoto.
Exactly.
Wow.
So you don't even have to be intolerant to that. You just need to have a leaky gut. So those big molecules are going down. And not just the food molecules. Like, remember when we talked about the layer of the microbiome, then you've got the mucus layer to protect it. If you've not got that mucus layer because you're having too many emulsifiers, those bugs go straight in, and they're called LPS producers. So these are bacterial bits of bacteria that go in, and they are very inflammatory. The body's super confused and has all these little immune complexes floating around. That's why the thyroid gland gets hit first, because of the vascularity. And managing that going forward as well, people like from conventional medicine, they'll just give you levothyroxine, which is the replacement of the hormone. So, which is necessary because when your gland isn't making levothyroxine, you need it. Because thyroid hormones control all your basal metabolic rate.
Yeah.
So it's super important to have them. But that's only treating the gland. It's not treating the entire system. So levothyroxine is T4. It needs to be converted in the gut to T3, which is the active metabolite. If you have a damaged gut, that's not going to work either, right?
Yeah.
So, and also, if you keep damaging that gut and keep putting the inflammatory things in, it keeps cycling again and again and again. So this autoimmunity doesn't go down. Yeah. And it starts with the thyroid. It moves on to other things. It can end up in vitiligo. It can end up in type 1 diabetes.
Wow. What are the main symptoms of Hashimoto?
So feeling quite tired to the point where nothing you do is just improving it. It's just this like really low tiredness, like this almost depressive tiredness. Good like long sleeps aren't really fixing it. Cold intolerance, just not feeling right, like a little bit puffy, a little bit of weight gain. A lot of people assume like thyroid issues is like massive bouts of weight gain. And that's not generally the case. It's just people who just don't feel a little bit off. And they realize that, you know what, I'm feeling a bit down, like a little bit depressed, a little bit like brain foggy, not mentally clear, just not being the best versions of themselves. Just not having that energy, not having that resilience, because that basal metabolic rate isn't going as fast as it should be.
Yeah.
We've not got that fuel for it, right?
Yeah. And you can spot Hashimoto doing blood tests.
You can generally from symptoms quite a lot of the times, but Hashimoto's like lives for years before it becomes thyroid, like a thyroid dysfunction.
Really?
So you can have raised autoantibodies for 10 years before you actually start to develop thyroid dysfunction, because they're floating about. So that's why I like to screen for it, because it's always better. Prevention's always better than cure, right? I love to screen for it. And when we identify it, we think about what can we do to start working on the gut now. Let's stop you from developing hypothyroidism. Although you have antibodies, you don't have hypothyroidism because your thyroid function is still working.
Yeah.
And it's often the case that I have so many people come to me and they'll be like, I've been put on this medication. I don't feel any better. I just feel awful.
Yeah.
I was like, but what have you done with your gut? No gut work, right?
Yeah.
So you're not stopping where the problem is starting. Then how are you going to build that?
So if I'm sure there are someone in our community that has heard about Hashimoto, or maybe they're suffering from Hashimoto, but maybe they haven't still found the cure or the recipe for either treat it or manage it, which you're going to tell me if it's the case, if you can treat it or you just have to manage it. What would you recommend to them?
So the first thing would be firstly looking at your gut. So removing all the ultra-processed foods as much as possible. Managing your stress, because actually research shows that high bouts of stress is what's most likely to trigger this immune reaction. So actually it was shown that like with women, the most common reason for it developing was firstly marital or relationship issues. And the second most common was moving house. Because moving house is so stressful, and that stress can trigger this autoimmune reaction.
Wow.
You've had this sitting in you for years, brewing, and then you just need that one real big trigger of stress.
Yeah.
All my Hashimoto's ladies are not calm ladies. They're all quite worked up and anxious because of many things.
Yeah.
They're not really relaxed type B, chilled out people. They're a lot more type A people. So we need to figure out like what's happening with the stress. Let's manage that first.
Yeah.
Manage the gut, like we need to go on an anti-inflammatory diet for a period of time, potentially continuously if things don't improve. Or will it be a situation where it's like 80-20 or 95-5? But most of your diet has to be from anti-inflammatory foods.
Yeah.
So things that are really supportive and taking out things that are quite commonly aggravating in an autoimmune state, such as eggs affect quite a bit for the period of time. Although I think eggs are amazing foods for a period of time, it is helpful to take them out. Dairy, soya, gluten, and all sugar as well, of course.
Yeah.
So that would be the first step. Just working on regaining their energy as well. Most of them don't exercise, right? But you need to get your body working properly again. You need to be doing some cardio. You need to be lifting weights, because that's also super important for your general resilience and your general metabolic health.
Yeah. We live in an era where we have glorified weight training and Pilates a lot. A little bit for trend, a little bit because now weight training is, there are a lot of studies about, the connection between longevity and weight training. And I'm this type of person that only lift heavy weights, so I don't do as much cardio. But as a doctor, do you think we are actually forgetting the cardio? Or do you think that actually for women, in order for them to not get our cortisol super high, we should actually avoid it?
So this is a really, really important topic, and it's something I get very frustrated with, because there's so many health influencers that say don't run, it's going to raise your cortisol. But actually studies show that doing just 3.4 minutes of vigorous activity a day reduces your risk of cardiovascular disease by 50%.
That's a lot.
Doing 8 minutes a day reduces your risk of cancer by 50% and all-cause mortality by 50%. This is so important and this is so significant. Nobody's telling you to do 1 hour Barry's every single day or do Soul Cycle continuously. But not exercising your heart, not pushing that heart, not causing that little bit of cortisol rise, which is important, because you rise and then you fall back down in a more adaptive way.
Yeah.
It's very, very, it builds you. It doesn't break you.
Yeah.
So many women just avoid working out, like running, and they think it's so scary. Like, let me not push my heart. Let me not push my heart. But how are you exercising your engine? I mean, would you keep a car parked in the garage for 3 years and turn it on and expect it to turn on? Of course not. Yeah. It doesn't have to be long bouts, but like they call them exercise snacks. These are the most important things to do to reduce all-cause mortality. So I get very, very frustrated when.
What do you think it would be like a good, and of course everybody's different. Everyone has a different also tolerance to cortisol and different lifestyles. So we don't want to generalize, but if you would give a piece of advice for women because I do believe that we enter in an era where overtraining is actually better than not training at all. I do believe in balance in everything that I do. I try to find like a balance because I think it's key most of the time. What do you think it would be like a good workout protocol? Not really from a fitness perspective, but from like a medicine and health perspective for women to maintain actually their muscle structure, longevity, but at the same time not entering in the spiral of overtraining and then by consequence having like a very high cortisol.
So it's actually, most people don't overtrain, actually, especially with women. It's quite a lot of people just think that they're overtraining, but they're actually underfueling. I think more of the problem is underfueling
Interesting.
than overtraining. If you're eating your good 3 meals a day with good fiber and good protein and getting that sleep, then the basic bare minimum that all women should be doing is a structure based on a couple of different things. 90 minutes of zone 2. So whatever, if that's walking uphill for you, if that's jogging, depending on your fitness, if that's brisk walking, 90 minutes of zone 2 is super important for your aerobic base. Then we need minimum 15 minutes of HIIT. So that can be spread across the week in different sessions, or you can just add that at the end of one session. Minimum 15, but I'd like to push it up a little bit more. It doesn't have to be a couple of hours. Even 15 minutes makes a massive difference. And minimum 3 strength training a week. It can be even 30 minutes of strength training. It could be body weight stuff that you just do at home, but 3 signals to the body, because it's a stimulus, right? Every time you exercise, when you do any muscle training, it's a stimulus. Doing it once a week, that stimulus isn't strong enough. So and it doesn't have to be super long. It doesn't have to be an hour, 2 hours, whatever, but just 3 small stimulus a week is important. And then stability, that's really important. So making sure you're doing things that are increasing your stability, doing, any exercises that make sure you're balancing things like yoga.
Like maybe ropes, jumping.
That's more like high intensity, because you're boosting that heart rate. But there's specific exercises like Russian get-ups, like where you lie on the floor, you push your hand up, or even like jumping onto an off a box. That's really helpful. Even just carrying like a farmer's walks, that's really helpful too. Like as heavy as you can go, because stability is so important. Because why do people pass away and live more challenged lives later on in their lives? Because they fall at 70 and they have a hip fracture and they lose their mobility. So stability is super important too. Yeah. So we have to be an all-rounder in all different aspects.
I'm really glad that you point out this issue. Because I feel there's a lot of pressure for women to just look at their best, especially now with social media. Especially now we see influencers and we see girls, they look a certain way, but we don't really know. And this is something that I've been talking about even in my previous coaching program, that we don't really know what's going on behind the scene for them. I mean, even though their appearance is very good, maybe they don't have their period, or maybe they're suffering from other gut conditions, or maybe they have hormones imbalances. So I think the fact that you point out that it's not really about working out or overworking out, it's more, even though I do feel that now social media has glamorizes overworking out, working out. And we have to consider also our bio-individuality and the fact that there has to be this time of reset where we rest, because it's important then to push it even more. But it's so true that some women, because they want to lose weight, they want to look good, they overeat and they overtrain. Yeah, which is maybe not very beneficial when it comes to hormone balances or just having your period naturally. Yeah.
No, it's really true. And I like to say strong over skinny is really important.
Yeah.
And it's important throughout a woman's life, because when you have all these periods of dieting, like even in teen years, that affects your bone growth, right? It's not just that these lack of calories are just losing fat. It's affecting your bones. It's affecting your brain. It's affecting everything.
Yeah.
And there's such a culture of these dieting cultures where you'll lose the weight, but when you lose that weight, you're losing muscle and fat. And then when it regains with this yo-yo, you're regaining that fat, not the muscle, and then lose it again. So you're becoming weaker and weaker. Your basal metabolic rate is getting lower and lower. Your ability to manage glucose is getting worse and worse and worse. So your tolerance to glucose is worse. You're developing insulin resistance. And it's just, you can see people who are actually super, super skinny, but they don't have regulated glucose because they don't have the muscle to do it. So it's so important to be strong.
Yeah.
For every single woman at every stage in their life, it's really important. But unfortunately, as you mentioned, social media rhetoric, that some people are naturally a little heavier.
Yeah.
And they won't look like that skinny girl you've seen on Instagram.
Yeah.
And then they feel that, oh, my body's not looking good. But their body's strong, right?
Yeah.
And it's something, education for young girls is really, really important.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing this. Actually, it's very valuable. Coming back a little bit on our previous conversation about proteins. So I know that you're developing something, and I know that I'm sure it's going to be amazing based on what you said, because I'm sure that you're researching a lot. And can you please guide us through what you're doing and guide us through why you're developing this product?
So I have two blends, a protein blend and a fiber blend. And they were both actually created in terms of, because I used to have all these patients coming to me with autoimmune problems. And I'd tell them, eat this, eat that, eat this. And it was quite difficult for them to manage. So I used to make these blends for them in my kitchen. And I would give it to them at their follow-ups, and it would help them so much. Like, for example, like I have a family member who is not even a patient of mine, and she has Hashimoto's. Her thyroid antibodies went from 550 to 50 in 1 month of taking the fiber blend, because the fiber blend focuses on 5 different ingredients and stuff that helps with cholesterol regulation, stuff that helps with short-chain fatty acid production, not just increasing bulk and making you go to the loo, but really, really working on your gut microbiome, which is amazing. The protein was actually made specifically for me because I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And
you do?
I do have it.
Okay.
I had it, I was diagnosed some 15 years ago, and I used to struggle because I never really understood it. And when I changed my lifestyle and I changed my approach and I became so much stronger, my life became so much better. My mental clarity became so much better. I was able to do so much more. So I just recently completed my master's in nutrition, and understanding functional foods was so incredible. So I was playing around with blends at home and created like a great thing that I can take first thing in the morning, because I struggle to eat a big breakfast when I have a screaming 3-year-old and I'm rushing off to see patients. So this is a blend of a whole food blend of specific seeds, and it's got raw cacao as well, which gives it that chocolate flavor, which has good plant-based protein, no isolates, no fillers, just whole foods, just real food. So I take it every day. My husband takes it every day. Our grandmother, who's a 90-year-old vegetarian, takes it every day in India. And it's done amazing work for all of my patients and for all my family members. So I'm really excited for more people to start.
I'm really excited too, actually, to try it, because I've been struggling to find like a good protein blend since forever. And even when my ex-clients, and I was coaching them, they were asking me, what's a good one? I said, no one.
Yeah.
I cannot recommend one that I'm very happy about, and I'm super picky with everything that, you know, I select for myself and I eat. So I wouldn't recommend any to anyone. So I'm so glad that actually now there's someone who's developing something that is really valuable, and there's no, something that can really alterate rather than, support our gut. So
Exactly.
I think I'm very impressed that you're doing this, because not all people actually are looking for, creating a product that can actually support people, but they're just looking at the profit, as you said at the beginning.
And that's the whole thing. There isn't one that exists in the market. There isn't a whole food-based protein because it's very expensive.
Yeah.
It's difficult to make. So that's something we've struggled with in soft launch. A lot of people saying, but why is it so much more expensive than my protein powder? It's because it's real food.
Yeah.
And it really nourishes you.
Yeah.
It really supports you. And I had that same thing, that so many patients would ask me, what protein powder do you recommend? And I say, none. Please
None.
don't, especially in the situation you're currently in, coming to me for gut issues. Please don't take anything.
Yeah.
So I would just make all these things at home, and then my husband kept saying like, "You're not a cook, you're a doctor. Stop doing this."
Yeah.
And then he's the businessman, and he's now taken over it, and he's my co-founder, and he's now managing the business and growing it, and we're manufacturing in the UK. We're really excited to launch properly here in a couple of months.
Amazing. So congratulations
Thank
in
you.
advance. I'm sure that we're all interested to try it. And is there any last message that you would love to share with our audience when it comes to, maybe gut health, but in perspective of longevity? I actually have another question for you when it comes to women, because not that I always want to focus only on women, but let's be honest, Hashimoto is basically an autoimmune disease that, affects women mostly. Everything that is connected to workout and body alteration, body shaming, all this kind of like insecurity, they're part of our, women package, like we carry so much about this. Is there a message that you would like to spread to women that they're struggling with gut issues, but a lot of health issues, and you really wish they would know about health that they're not considering, but they have to take care of?
Yes, one particular is that don't blame yourself. This is an issue of how our food is being made.
Yeah.
So it's not a motivation issue. It's not, a self-preservation issue. It's not that you can't control and you're eating badly. It's that you're not, unfortunately, being exposed to the right foods. And unfortunately, most people don't have the education to understand.
Yeah.
So what's really helpful is, instead of just going on a diet and getting rid of things, start to understand what's more important. Read more about like different foods, understand what's more helpful, and keep diaries. Write down what you're eating, how you feel, and just make small changes. Nobody's expecting you to give everything up and tomorrow be this perfect person that eats 100% well. Even if you make a 5% change, that's still 5% more than what you were yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Every single positive meal is good for you.
Yeah.
So every time you think, oh, should I just eat that? Order that Nando's or whatever, or I've got a bit of leftover chicken in the fridge, I've got some broccoli, can I put something together?
Yeah.
Know that healthy meal signals your biology.
Yeah.
Like, food isn't just fuel, it's information. It tells your body what it should do with hormones, what it should do with energy, what it should do with weight. So this should all start through little habits, because it's all about consistency, and it's all about trying as much as you can, learning as much as you can, and not putting yourself down, because you are not the failure. The system is the failure.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you so much for being with us. I think we cover so many topics, and I'm sure our community will be super interesting in knowing more about this. And thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Rhea. And guys, if you have any more questions for Doctor, or if you want us to talk more about a specific topic that we touched base today, let us know in the comment, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.